Warehouse W's revenue from the sale of sofas was what percent greater this year than it was last year? So they're asking for a percent change. And so I can put my prompt in terms of my percent change formula. So we're looking for the percent change between the revenue this year and the revenue last year. So I'll just call that revenue X minus revenue Y all over revenue Y, where X is this year, Y is last year. Other than that, there was no information given in my prompt, just a question. So we will move on to our statements. Warehouse W sold 10% more sofas this year than it did last year. Oops. And so here in statement 1, I can see what they're doing now. They are breaking up revenue into its components. And so revenue is just price times quantity. And here they're giving us information about the quantity. And so based on that, I can tell that this will be insufficient by itself because no information about the price is given. And so I can't really determine anything about the revenue. We can still translate this statement. And so I can, now that I see that they are breaking revenue up into its components, I can sort of rephrase my question, because revenue this year will just be the price this year times the quantity sold this year, and the revenue from last year will be the price last year times the quantity sold last year. So our question then would be, we were looking for the difference between price this year times the quantity sold this year minus price last year times the quantity sold last year all over price times quantity last year. And so here they're telling us that Q this year, that would be QX, is 10% greater than the quantity sold last year. So that's Q this year is equal to 1.1 quantity sold last year. But again, it's still insufficient because we still don't know anything about price. And so keep in mind, even though we only have P's and Q's, it's not that we only have 2 variables here. We actually have 4 variables, right? P this year, Q this year, P last year, Q last year. And so we want to narrow down those variables if we're going to answer our question. Statement 2 says Warehouse W's selling price per sofa, now they're giving us information on the price, was $30 greater this year than it was last year. So this is telling us that P this year, or PX, is equal to PY, the price last year, plus 30. And so once again, this will be insufficient by itself because no information about the quantity is given. But now that we have to look at them together, we can take advantage of these equations that we were able to make from our statements. And so in order to eliminate as many variables as possible, let's try plugging in. And so we can replace all of our Q's, all of our quantities from this year. Or we can get that in terms of quantity from last year. And we can get all our prices for this year in terms of the price from last year. And so we can get everything in terms of last year. So PX becomes PY plus 30 times QX. That becomes 1.1 QY minus PY times QY. That stays the same all over PY QY. So I can see here that this will still be insufficient because we were able to get everything in terms of 2 variables, but that's still not enough to cancel all of our variables out. In order to do that, we need to get everything in terms of a single variable. And so here, once you see that, you can say it's insufficient. The answer will be E. For the sake of completeness, let's see how far we can go, though. So if I were to combine everything that I can, I would multiply this out here. And so we have ty times 1.1 qy. So that's 1.1 qy qy plus 30 times 1.1 qy. And so 30 times 1.1 is what, 33? Minus qy qy all over ty qy. And so I can combine my terms here. So 1.1, because we have a coefficient of 1 here. So 1.1 minus 1 is just 0.1. So I get 0.1 qy ty plus 33 qy all over ty qy. And this really is as far as we can go. Nothing else can be combined or canceled out. We can factor out a qy. Let's try doing that. So qy times 0.1 qy plus 33 all over qy. Maybe we can go a little bit farther, but it will still be insufficient. So we can cancel out our qy here. We can get everything in terms of the price from last year. We cannot get it to cancel out. Not do this, do that. You are making a fundamental fraction error. So this is as far as we can go. This means the value for our percent change is still dependent on the value for our price last year, and the value will change when that price changes. So it's still insufficient. And as we said before, E is our answer.